Listen, a historic NCAA tournament for women's college basketball, where many of the stars at that level will hear their name called tonight in Brooklyn for the 2024 WNBA draft, where the excitement from college should continue over the summer into the W. The Indiana Fever are on the clock, but we've known who Indiana is going to take since Caitlin Clark declared for the WNBA draft way back in February. She is going first overall tonight to the Fever. DRS, in the last couple of drafts that we have seen a generational talent be favored to go first overall. Victor Wembanyama, last summer, first overall to San Antonio, minus 20,000. Connor Bedard, the generational talent to go first overall to the Chicago Blackhawks, also minus 20,000. Take Caleb Williams. In just about a week and a half in Detroit, he will go first overall to the Chicago Bears, minus 10,000. That is the price to be the first overall selection. Caitlin Clark doesn't even have a number listed. We have odds out for her WNBA success in her opening and rookie campaign, but there is not even a price for Clark to go first overall to the Fever. Some have joked, wouldn't it be hilarious if the Fever did not take Clark at first overall? Not only is she the biggest superstar in women's sports, maybe in basketball at this current point, she is the most talented player and the best prospect in this draft. And I don't think it's particularly close. Not to say there isn't talent behind her, and we'll discuss those prices throughout the rest of the opening round tonight in Brooklyn. Caitlin Clark is the first overall pick. And the Indiana Fever, who drafted Aaliyah Boston first overall last year out of South Carolina, now have the foundational pieces for the Fever to be a dynasty in the NBA. Imagine the pick-and-roll offense for Indiana this summer. Caitlin Clark at the point, feeding it to Aaliyah Boston, so on and so forth. And Fever fans are hopefully thinking that is going to be the case for many a year to come in the WNBA.
And shout out the WNBA and whoever the television affiliates will be tonight, because they decided that, hey, you know what? Why don't we send this draft out at 10 o'clock tonight, because that's probably the optimum time for the entire country to watch? No, it starts at 7 o'clock. They will draft at 7:30. So somewhere around 7:35, Caitlin Clark will be drafted, and we can all watch and enjoy it and see exactly what is going to take place. Now, that draft order that we popped up here, Fever number 1 overall, we know who that's going to be. The Sparks actually have 2 picks in the top 5, going at number 2 and number 4. Followed by the Wings, Mystics, Lynch, and the Sky. The Sky also here go 3rd and also 8th. Now, we listed up here the players by position of where draft position where we think they're going to go. Clayton Clark, obviously, monster favorite here, number 2, Brink at minus 9,000. Cardozo, Jackson, Shelton, and Edwards. Now, the key question is going to be also on top of that is, I don't really know if it's, not watching a lot of WNBA drafts. Will there be trades in the process? Could things shift and move around? But it looks like we have a pretty good idea who 1 and 2 are going to be. So let's focus on where Caitlin Clark is actually going to the Indiana Fever. Because the one thing we know is, look, they didn't make a deal last year based on what the Chicago Bears did. So you're a bad basketball team with some good starting pieces. That foundation that you're going to draft with Caitlin Clark now and Aaliyah Boston, where does that leave them this year, Ben? Team win total 21 and a half, playoffs to make it minus 215, and also Clark the MVP at 15-1. Let's talk about what it means for the Fever here.
So, last year in the WNBA, only 12 teams in this league, so just know that. 8 of the 12 teams make the playoffs. The top 4 all were above 500 in a 40-game regular season over the summer months in the WNBA. The bottom 4 all had losing records and still made the postseason, starting with the Dream at 19 and 21. In fact, the Dream, the Minnesota Lynx, and the Washington Mystics all finished 19 and 21 and made the playoffs. The Sky were the 8th and final team into the postseason at 18 and 22. It has been the super team era in the WNBA now for a season. That battle between the Las Vegas Aces and the New York Liberty. We got the series that was promised for a WNBA title on the line. The Aces went back-to-back, led, of course, by Asia Wilson, who won the WNBA MVP award. Or was it Breanna Stewart? last year. Asia won it 2 years ago. I think Stewie won it a season ago. But the Ace is the first repeating champion in the WNBA DRS since the early 2000s when back in the day, I believe it was the LA Sparks to pull off that feat. So when you see 21.5 for the Fever, who finished 13-27 a year ago, if they get to 20 wins based on the sample size of a season ago, they would certainly be in playoff consideration, minus 215 for Indiana. But let's go through the rest of that top 8. Cameron Brink, the Defensive Player of the Year in college hoops, minus 9,000, goes second overall to the LA Sparks. Deserving of that, a sensational college career, one of the best bigs in the sport, a part of the team for the Cardinal that won the NCAA tournament back in 2021. So Cameron Brink, more than likely at minus 9,000, will be that second overall pick to the LA Sparks. What is interesting with the Sparks drafting fourth as well, would they take another big in Camila Cardoso, of course, a part of the South Carolina Gamecocks, who won a national championship this year, knocking off Clark's Iowa Hawkeyes? Or would they go to Rickea Jackson, a front court player, but just more versatile in what she can do? So the Sparks DRS with 2 draft picks in the first 4 selections and at 28th overall, 3 rounds, by the way, in the WNBA draft, can make a big spark, pun intended, to their franchise tonight. And they have some pieces in place. Kia Nurse, Zaya Cook out of South Carolina at the guard positions that, with a couple of front court stars like Cameron Brink and Rickea Jackson, expected to pay off immediate dividends in the rookie campaigns. Maybe it's a brighter future for LA this WNBA season.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch it play out because it looks like you're in that rebuild mode here for the Sparks as they have draft picks here in round number 1, 2, 4, and 28 overall. But I don't know, is 28's not a first round pick? Is that a second round pick, I would assume? I don't think they go that deep in round number 1. Third round pick there. So 3 draft picks today. And again, you're adding right into it. Now, also, you brought up a pretty good point. If you're going to sort of restrict, because typically it's a guard league anywhere you go, right? But back in the day, the San Antonio Spurs were like, hey, you know what? We'll go David Robinson, number 1 overall. And then a couple years later, we're going to get Tim Duncan here as that monster 1-2 punch. Maybe something that the Sparks would be taking a look at if you go with Brink and also Cardozo here. Now, let's just remove out of the equation, Ben. Let's take Brink out here. The remaining people that are ending up to be drafted tonight in that first round. Is there going to be a surprise tonight in the WNBA draft? Is there a player that maybe would be moving up the ranks, or is it just so simple to go right in order?
So here's something that I think could be surprising to those fans of college basketball now in the WNBA. Angel Reese did declare out of LSU, but she's probably not going to go in the top 6. Those are the only odds available on the WNBA. Maybe it's 7. That's where she's been slotted and mocked to the Chicago Sky, who also have 2 picks in the top 8. But I would expect Angel Reese not to be in the top half of this opening round. There is that battle, DRS, between Rickea Jackson out of Tennessee, who was sensational this past season for the Volunteers and spent 5 years in college basketball. 20 points per game, 8 boards for Tennessee in 2023-24. Had 30-plus in the round of 32, albeit in a losing effort against NC State. But just where LA drafts at 2nd and 4th, I would expect Rickea Jackson to go 4th overall and Camila Cardoso out of South Carolina to go 3rd overall to Chicago. Would you go 2 bigs for the Sky with Cardoso and Angel Reese? Maybe to be expected in the WNBA draft. A lot to figure out tonight in Brooklyn. Should be a historic night for the Dubs.